Thank you. How is everybody doing today? Great? Are you ready to get some good information? Awesome. All right. My name is Julie Chatman, and I'm happy to see each of you today. A couple of you I had some time to introduce myself to, so I'm really hoping this will be valuable to you. I am a US Navy veteran, and I have more than 15 years of cybersecurity experience across a variety of organizations and industries, including the FBI, the US Department of Defense, pharma, and banking. I serve clients on digital risk and tech strategy with a focus on cybersecurity. And based on our work with hundreds of clients all over the world on this topic, which is what cyber leaders need to know to successfully execute a transformation, I'm going to share what we've learned supporting cyber leaders doing just that with you today. So what is a cyber transformation? What does it all mean? Why is it happening? Well, the pandemic really amped things up. Things became digital really quickly. A personal example from my personal life is my husband is a retired US Marine. And so my family has a particular healthcare arrangement. And before the pandemic, I had a lot of trouble imagining our healthcare providers doing any of our appointments in any other way other than sitting in front of them in the office. But now telemedicine is like normal behavior, right? People are attending Zoom parties, they are working out or doing yoga with online instructors. And so the pandemic forced these digital innovations, leading to cyber becoming a regular part of everyday life. So what is a cyber transformation? These are large-scale endeavors. They're focused on the business. They're focused on the risks that matter to the business. And they're focused on the future. And so they are going to be integrated throughout the organization. So by a show of hands, will you please share with me if you have undergone a cyber transformation, if you have recently survived a cyber transformation, if you're thinking about it in your program or your organization? Show of hands. Awesome. Okay, so this is real stuff, right? This is happening. This is happening. So what does this mean for Chief Information Security Officers and other cyber leaders? Businesses are experiencing a core set of key cyber shifts, okay? We have cloud migration, securing multi-cloud, the professionalization and the increasing sophistication of cyber crime and cyber bad actors. We have an increase in regulations. If you're operating across multiple geographies, you're going to be subject to data protection laws across those geographies. And all of this is making the board and others pay way more attention to cybersecurity than perhaps they were before. I want to talk about consumer behavior and cyber as a competitive differentiator. You see right here where it says 87% of customers won't do business with companies that are insecure. But I'm going to tell a story that's like from a different angle of approach. We worked with a global manufacturing company that knew that if they were able to create a cybersecurity or their product design was secure, that this would place them above their competitors, right? Like, because the customers will not do business with you. So if they were to become compromised, it would affect their customers, and then it would affect the customers of their customers. But if they showed their product was secure, then when people are making these like large decisions on large spends, it makes them more attractive. So cyber is definitely a competitive differentiator. And when we think about cyber and what good looks like, we think about these 8 core capabilities, okay? And just honing in on this one, which is cyber resilience and recovery, what that means is when you have a cyber attack, because you will experience an effective cyber attack, I mean, this is going to happen, it's inevitable. How can you get your business operations up and running quickly? Can you learn from what happened? Can your organization learn and grow from what happened? Can the organization perhaps shift how it thinks of cybersecurity and risk, right? So this one's important. And there's one here that people tend to sleep on. They tend to ignore this. And that's strategy, program management, and performance. This is the one that'll get you in trouble. You know, it's not necessarily technical, but it is important because this is how you connect to the board. This is how you show what your program is doing. This is how you show the people that work with you, how you hold them accountable for delivering. So this is an important one. Please don't sleep on it. Now, each of these capabilities have sub-capabilities, and I want to show them to you here. But please don't try to read this whole slide. There is a lot here because there's a lot of work that has to be done. And this is where recipes and risk-based prioritization come into play. And when I talk about risk-based prioritization, I'm talking about an organization racking and stacking the risks that matter the most to that organization. And when I talk about recipes, it's just like how it sounds, right? Depending on, your tastes, you're going to pick certain things. So think of like a nutrition label on a box of cereal. The nutrition label is going to have all the ingredients in the cereal, but it's also going to label things that could hurt certain people with food allergies, like tree nuts or gluten, something like that. And so depending on your situation, you would make that choice, right? But you can't do all of it. You have to decide in your organization what's important. Now, to some extent, in organizations with good cyber, all of these things will be present, but some of them will bubble up more than others. Okay, so this is something that's not exactly easy to talk about, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. When we work with cybersecurity leaders, there are things that we have seen, things that we have observed. And we have noticed that there are barriers to success for cybersecurity leaders, in particular chief information security officers, that aren't related to tools or technology. And so let's start with things like how the program is viewed, the perception around the program. Is the program's value understood, right? Is the program viewed as a business blocker? In some cases, business leaders aren't engaged, and there's a fair bit of stakeholder contention in the organization. And all of this will cascade down here, where when the leader tries to request resources like money or personnel, it'll be heavily scrutinized, and in some cases, it will be denied. So we've seen this, right? And putting a finer point on it, I want to share some quotes from business leaders talking about some of the cybersecurity folks that they work with. What's resonating here is that we as a cybersecurity community, we are not communicating the value of cybersecurity programs. We're not communicating what we're delivering. It leaves business leaders, including the board, maybe your CIO, wondering, what happened with last year's spend? Maybe we're giving them metrics and they're wondering, how do I interpret these metrics? What do these metrics even have to do with what I need to accomplish in my business role, right? But the good news with this is it's completely doable. Like this stuff is beatable. You can overcome this. And this is where the secret sauce is, right? You think about business, you think about How do you align your cybersecurity activities with business outcomes? Right here, I'm going to put myself in another person's shoes, right? I'm gonna think I'm a chief information security officer. Maybe it's my first 100 days. Maybe it's not my first 100 days. Maybe I'm new to the organization. Or maybe I've been there for a while, but I'm about to undergo a cybersecurity change or a cyber transformation. So since I'm a chief information security officer, I'm gonna probably index on the tech piece, and I'm going to wonder, do I know everything that's in the ecosystem? Because if I don't, how can I secure what I don't know about? But one thing I do know is if something happens, if there's an incident, no one's going to think about that, right? They're not going to think about that. I'm also thinking, who do I need to impress? Who are the friendlies? I want cybersecurity as a program and an organizational effort to be respected and regarded, because I want my job to be easier. People will want to follow the rules, they'll want to do the right thing, and that's going to make securing things easier. Do I have to impress the chief information security officer? Do I have to impress the chief risk officer? I definitely want the board on my side because I want my requests to receive due regard and hopefully approval. So if I'm thinking about these two things, does that resonate with people here? Is that something you think about as you try to navigate, right? Yeah, so if I'm thinking about this, the answer is here below, right? The answer is me defining a vision, defining a strategy, and that strategy has to be unquestionably linked to the business strategy, right? And as I go around in the organization, as I talk to people, as I deliver, people have to see that everything I do is on that basis and with that in mind. So I want to stress that. Your strategy needs to have initiatives that are clearly and unquestionably linked to business outcomes, business initiatives, the business strategy, the business vision. Okay? All right. So let's go to sleep disturbances. Let's see what we have here. Oh, no spoilers. What keeps CISOs up at night? All right, so again, I'm gonna step into the role and I'm thinking about my expanding attack surface. So I'm thinking Internet of Things, I'm thinking bring your own device. I'm thinking migrating to the cloud, and if I've already done that, I'm thinking securing my multi-cloud environment. And something from the people piece, I'm thinking the cybersecurity talent shortage, and I'm thinking insider threat. So can I ask, is anyone thinking about anything else? Did I miss something?
Shortages, period, even through the rest of the company, because I have buy-in from managers in different departments. The problem is that I'm going, okay, I really need to push this project forward. Siloing information in their departments, organizational, information management programs. The problem is they're as overwhelmed and undermanned currently as my department.
Right. What's your name?
John says.
John? Thank you, John. That was awesome. I think a lot of people were shaking their heads when you were talking, and so I think that resonates. Does anybody have another example? All right. What about how quantum computing is going to eventually affect the data protection requirements and the laws? Right? What about that? That could be a little bit scary. Okay. Let's look at how leading organizations address what keeps them up at night. And here it's really all about the cyber transformation. I want to hone in on two examples, one that's somewhat technical and then another that's not. All right. So here we have increased inherent vulnerabilities creating core failure points due to supply chain dependence. And here we're talking about software, right? So if we're talking about software, we believe that a software bill of materials program could be a strong potential solution. So when you think of a software bill of materials program or an SBOM, think about, think about like listing out components and dependencies, right? So basically, if you're able to figure out what's in the software, like if your developers can figure out what is the code behind the code, they can probably make security decisions a little bit faster. And if you think about your legal folks, for example, if they can see the use cases, they can try to make sure that there's not a high potential for violations, right? So basically, a software bill of materials gets you there. It gets you to take these vulnerabilities at the core of them. So I also want to talk about something that John talked about, which was a lack of technical talent, right? Cultural support, organizational alignment creates security shortcomings along the value chain. So this is not technical, but this can hurt you. So what we look at here is a cyber culture change effort. And the way we handle that is we take a baseline of the culture, but at the same time, we look at what good looks like and where the organization wants to go. And then we map out how to get there. And this can be done in a matter of weeks using interviews, surveys, workshops, right? And so this is how we would address this. All right, so I'm gonna go to Q&A. All right, so this could be Q&A, or this could be like, if you wanna share something with the group, maybe get some validation, some information, that would work too. I'm open to it, so please let me know. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to ask you about the zero trust, because obviously, I just wanted to ask you to expand a little more on the zero trust, because if we think about organizational transformation, that's, something everybody's really looking at, and it's a lot. and your organization, I think, is really good at breaking that down into pieces and mapping it out. So sharing some insights along those lines could be really helpful.
Sure, what's your name?
Oh, Erin Joe.
Erin. Hi, Erin. That's a great question. So here's what I think about zero trust. The technology for zero trust has been around for a while. I don't necessarily view zero trust as a highly technical thing. When I think of it, it's more like a way of working, a way of thinking about the security. And I think that's where some of us in the community maybe fall short, because our mind automatically goes to the technology and not necessarily the principles. Like, I know there are principles of zero trust, and I think that's the focus rather than the technology piece. I don't think it's quote unquote a lot in terms of the tech. I think it's a lot in terms of the culture, how we do things, right? And it's gotten to the point where some people look at zero trust as a bad word. It's not a bad word. It's just a way of doing things, right? All right.
You mentioned several things about culture and visibility. I'm wondering, for US-based companies in the proposed SEC regulations around cyber, I'm wondering what your view is of how boards will implement some of that knowledge that they're supposed to have, and how that might affect visibility of the program.
I want to make sure I understand your question. What's your name?
Joe.
Joe?
Yeah.
Joseph?
Joe
Oh,
Joe Mendel, yeah.
Joe, okay. I want to make sure I understand your question. Can you restate it?
Well, the SEC is proposing that board of directors have to have cybersecurity knowledge on the board. And with that's going to come, I think, increased awareness, and it'll be more of a topic at the C-suite.
Yep.
And I'm wondering how you're seeing boards are going to implement that, and how that's going to affect the cultural pieces of a good cybersecurity program in a company.
I don't have any future predictions of that, but I think of it after an initial period of growing pains. I think it will be a good thing for us as a community if we have someone on the board who understands us when we talk. I mean, don't you? Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, but I think with any change, there's going to be some pain there. And there are going to be some like unexpected challenges because it's new. Typically, cybersecurity people aren't aren't invited into those spaces. And any change to that, I think, would be a good thing, personally.
Hi, Sherry Benedict with ODNI. So just curious if you're familiar with the EO for cyber, the 14028, and I know there's national manager standards coming out or have come out. And so just curious, is there anything that you think, especially with the EO, that was overlooked or was missed that you think it was critical, should have been critical to have?
Tell me the EO again?
The cyber improvement EO that the administration put out last year.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at it closely. I like the fact that the administration is putting out these cyber orders. Tell me the title of the EO.
It's improving cybersecurity, essentially. So.
Yeah. But that's been tried with a couple of administrations, I think.
Yeah.
I think until something is like the law, then it's kind of like maybe a little saber rattling in a way.
Yeah, so it's including things like zero trust and
Yeah.
many things we're talking about here, kind of raising that requirement bar. So I think it's good to have us all kind of marching towards something, but just wondering if you thought there's something.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it very deeply. Sorry, but I will.
Hi, Julie. My name's Jeff. Can you talk a little bit about the talent management piece? Any good examples that you have as far as that the domain of strategy, program management, and performance? Do you have any good examples? Was it all about employee retention, or what are your thoughts there?
I think it's about looking in the less typical places for talent. I think that as a cyber leader, I need to be open to other types of people that aren't the traditional practitioners, because there's a basic set of skills or a fundamental set of skills that some people have, which if we invite them into the community, we can teach them the technical piece. And by that, I mean, and this is just an example that's coming from my personal life. I volunteered with the fire department in my local community for 2 years. I did that because it's a rural community and it had a lot of equipment and not a lot of volunteers, right? So I went to the firehouse, I joined up. And what I found was that like these people were doing mathematical calculations in their head on water flows, because in a rural community, you don't have fire hydrants. Does everybody know that? You have to come to the fire scene with your own water. And you have to make sure you're not running out. So these are like, I guess, salt of the earth type people, but doing these mathematical equations in their head. They're also like calm under pressure and ready to rush in an emergency. What if I took somebody like that and put them in a sock? I mean, they're interested, but it's like you don't have the cert, or, right? And I'm not going to debate certs or whatever. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm just putting an idea out there that maybe we can leverage people that are interested in the life, have the basic like analysis, customer service, intellectual curiosity, calm under pressure. Maybe we can get some of those people and we can close the gap.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, I'm very happy to meet each of you, and I met quite a few of you before the session started, but this is my contact information. I'm definitely open to connecting and talking more about certain things. If you want to get together on that EO after I've read it, because I have a lot of opinions. And so if you want to chat with me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm open on there, so please find me under Julie Chatman. It says Julie Chatman MBA, I think. But it's the same. I have an afro and red lipstick. You'll find me. It's fine. All right. Thank you so much.